Howdy all, Ruckus here, back once again with another tank review. I'm sure you're all dying to hear how the VK3001P plays. Maybe. But like it or lump it, that's what we're doing today. First up though, a quick apology to anyone who sent me a message in the past week that I have not responded to. I've been experiencing a lot of game crashes in the past week. Don't know what the problem is, but the game's dropping out of me a lot. So if I haven't responded to you, I probably just lost your message, as you only get that one chance to reply. As you all know, if you leave the game, the messages disappear. There was one message in particular that I didn't get to respond to before the game crashed on me. It was regarding premium ammunition. Someone was asking why I've always got it loaded in all of my tanks, but I rarely use it. So I'll just have a brief discussion here about premium ammunition before we get into this review. First things first, a bit of history. Premium ammo, heat rounds in APCR, commonly referred to as gold ammo. When the game was first released on PC, for at least a year there, you could only buy this kind of ammunition with gold, in-game gold, hence the gold ammo term. They got rid of that eventually. It was deemed to be a pay-to-win system, and that's definitely what it was. People used to hate gold spammers even more than they do now. To swap between the two payment systems here in Blitz, you just enter your ammo loadout screen, load a bit of APCR or heat, and then click on the shell price, and that will swap it between gold or credits. If you weren't already aware of this, don't worry, I have had to explain this to people with thousands and thousands of games under their belt. It does catch people out. So why load premium ammunition at all? Well, both types, APCR and heat, whilst having different behavioural characteristics in-game that I won't get into here, both share one common trait, and that is an increase in penetration over standard armour-piercing rounds. You're looking anywhere between an increase of 10 to 25%. The obvious downside of these rounds, of course, is their cost. If you're paying with gold, well, obviously you've got money to burn, but if you're paying with in-game credits, then it's going to eat into your profitability. The actual price increase for gold rounds per vehicle varies widely. The E100 often has players that will just spam the gold round in that. That's why it's referred to as the Heat 100 at times. The gold rounds there, heat rounds, cost 5 times as much per shell, but offer a really good increase over the relatively poorly performing AP rounds. Up the opposite end of the scale, you've got the T2 light tank. If you want that extra 10mm penetration, you will be paying 200 times the standard price for AP rounds if you want APCR, 400 per shell as opposed to 2. That is crazy, do not do that. But getting back to the original question of why it is I load gold rounds into all my vehicles even though I don't often use it, and that is just that it's prudent to have at least a couple loaded. You are often going to find yourself in situations where your survival or the win of a game depends on landing 1 or 2 crucial shots, and it's always better to pay the gold price for a shell than pay a full repair bill or suffer a loss, in my opinion. You might remember I was playing the Centurion a couple of episodes back. I was playing the 17-pounder gun, which is one down from the top gun, not great pen, about 180mm, and I was up against an IS-8, and even though I was hitting the flattest part I could see of the pike nose, it just wasn't having any effect. In that instance, I had to swap to APCR, confirm the kill, and go on to win the game. In matches where you are bottom tier, obviously taking a few gold rounds into battle is going to be advantageous. Also, if you're in a slow vehicle and you don't have the option to flank, you need to take on the opposition front on where their best armor is. Gold rounds will obviously help there. But even good flanking vehicles will require gold at times. Let's say you're in a T-54, the map is mines, and you need to win that hill straight away. You're up against enemy mediums and your penetration is not great with standard AP. In that situation, I would load gold straight away until you've won that first engagement, the hill is yours, then you can sit back, reload your AP, and snipe for the rest of the game. But for that first engagement, I would take the best possible ammo in. Ultimately, the amount of gold rounds you decide to take into battle is completely up to you. I, for one, would always recommend taking at least a couple in for each vehicle. It's just giving yourself the best possible chance for a win. Just don't become that player on the opposite end of the scale who loads nothing but gold rounds in public matches. It's not necessary, and in my opinion, it's completely unsportsmanlike behaviour. There's just no need for it. Your stats are not that important. Come on, you know who you are, people. Alright, I've jibber-jabbing on for long enough. It's time to get into this tank review. The VK3001P, the tier 6 of the German heavy tank Morse line. This is the last medium tank of the line. We are finally getting our way up to heavy tank territory. Is it any good? Well, let's find out. I'm running a revised format for this review. It's going to be hopefully more concise, which is handy because we're already up to the 6-minute mark here. The history of the vehicle is easy enough to get through because there really isn't much of it. The VK3001P was an early war design. The Germans put forward a requirement for a 30-ton fighting vehicle, and eventually 2 hulls were produced in a joint effort by Krupp and Porsche. Although it never went into production, the VK3001P was the basis for the Tiger P heavy tank, which is the next tank that follows along in this line. There are a total of 6 medium tanks at tier 6, 5 regular vehicles and 1 premium. These are, including the VK31P, the VK3002M, the American M4A3E8 Sherman, its much more attractive famous Hollywood brother, the Fury, the Mountain Goat disguised as a British medium tank Cromwell, and the ever-reliable T3485. In this revised review format, instead of bringing up every possible number for all the tanks at this tier, we're just going to compare the VK31P statistics against the average for each characteristic we look at. So, for example, we bring up hit points here, we add them all together for all these 6 tier 6 mediums to work out the tier average, 970, and then we compare the VK31P statistic, 920, against that average to give a positive or negative percentage. With any luck, this should give us, at a glance, a good indication of any strengths or weaknesses a vehicle might have. So if we bring up the first board, vehicle performance, immediately we can see there are some big negatives going on here. Hull traverse and turret traverse, 20 and 26% lower than the average for this tier. It's not a good dogfighting, turn-fighting vehicle, the VK31P. You're going to have more trouble than average getting around behind heavy tanks and tank destroyers, and you are often going to lose out if you try and take on other tier 6 mediums in a turning circle fight. On the other end of the scale, weight and speed limit are good, and the power to weight ratio is on the average, which is good considering the vehicle weighs so much. So it is a good ramming machine, at least in comparison with the other tier 6 mediums, and you will be able to rush to first key positions with that good top speed, 11.5% better than the average for that tier. I think it's only beaten by the Cromwell. The hit points are lower than average, which is not great, and the view range and fire chance is pretty much on the average. Only the Cromwell has more than 240 view range at this tier for the mediums, and only the T3485 has a less than 20% chance of engine fire for this tier. On to gun performance, and again we've got some disparate trends going on here. The damage and the rate of fire is lower than the average, and this adds up to a 10% lower average damage per minute, 1421. Not great, but this is kind of made up for by the fact that the rounds do perform better. Penetration on all rounds, gold, standard and HE, is better than the average, and the accuracy is almost 6% better than average for this tier. So more reliable rounds, even if they don't do as much damage and you can't pump them out quite as fast. Aim time for tier 6 mediums is all 2.3 seconds, so no big surprise there. A big negative though we can see is the field of fire for the gun. The elevation, only 15 degrees upwards, is terrible, 25% less than the average for the tier, and the gun depression not great either, so it's going to be a harder gun to bring to bear on your targets than the average. With this next board we can finally see what the Morse line of tanks is all about. Finally we're starting to see some good armor performance. Now this board is the rated armor performance, that is the actual thickness of the plates, not taking into account any sloping, which would give us the actual effective armor thickness. So we can see amazing performance, at least on paper, for the VK31OP. Of note is hull sides. 60mm is 43% better than the average for the tier. It's a good side scraping machine, obviously, and the turret overall is great, with special note to the rear and sides, amazing performance. In reality, things aren't quite so rosy for the VK31OP. As a German vehicle, the armor is very boxy and slabby. There's not much in the way of sloping, if any sloping at all. No complex curves or anything fancy like that, as opposed to your American and Russian vehicles. So my next board adjusted armor performance tries to take into account the increase that the other tanks will get due to their sloping. Using Glamour 3D's Armor Inspector, I've taken the thickness of the armor at a 180 degree to the ground, so a completely level shot coming in. What would the armor thickness be? And we can see that the VK301P does not get much benefit in the way of its sloping. The whole front and the whole rear, a tiny bit extra armor, but obviously all the other vehicles we're in comparison with, except for maybe the Cromwell, get a buff to their armor. And that's why whole front and turret front has actually decreased into the negative performance wise. The turret front is actually almost impossible to properly judge. Each tank has a different sized gun mantlet, and it's just too difficult to judge where to take the thickness measurement from. So take that one with a grain of salt, but we can still see that the whole sides, rear, turret sides and rear still perform really good, even taking into consideration the sloping on the other tanks. A quick look on GameModel3D.com reveals no major surprises in the VK's armor, barring perhaps this slab of 115mm in front of the driver's hatch. The turret has a large commander's cupola, 80mm thick and rounded, and if we remove the 80mm of spaced armor that is this big flat horizontal gun mantlet, we can see just why it's so hard to get an accurate measurement of what the actual front turret thickness is. Behind that mantlet we've got, what have we got here, 80mm, 60mm, and directly horizontal with the gun there's actually a space where there's no armor at all. So that's why I've struggled to get an accurate measurement at the front of the tank's turrets for this review. The internal module and crew view reveals that big flammable frontal transmission that's standard across most German vehicles. The sides of the vehicle are made up of ammo racks and fuel tanks, as we'll see in my gameplay vids. Up in the turret we've got a gunner and a commander on the left and the loader on the right. And the driver obviously sits behind that big slab of 115mm of armor at the left hand side of the hull. Alright, finally it is gameplay time. These are some old matches. We're talking November or December of last year. Some of the clips went into the year that was video, it's that old. This is a fully maxed out VK301P with an average crew. They're about 80% I think. I don't think I managed to get the crew up to 100% before I sold this thing. This is a game on mines, obviously. I'm going to use the top speed of the VK to rush the hill, looking for backup, but my medium brothers are all bailing on me to go wide. Power to weight ratio of this vehicle means it's going to slow right down coming up here, so this could be dicey. Who am I going to run into? There's Sherman on the Reds team. We trade shots, we both hit, we both penetrate and both do damage, but he's backing away. This is good news, the hill is mine. This will give Carrick and his T150 time to move up. An enemy VK301P approaches. My first shot goes through his side, right where the ammo racks are located. In World of Tanks and Blitz, as far as I know, damaged modules are more likely to be critically damaged in subsequent shots. Damaged tracks are more likely to be blown off with the next shot. Damaged fuel tanks are more likely to catch on fire with the next shot. And damaged ammo racks are more likely to detonate in subsequent shots. So my second shot goes directly where I fired the first one, and that takes him out of the game. All the targets there milling about, they're not trying to push me, and that has given Carrick time to move up. I'm taking lots of little peppering and splash damage shots from two medium tanks. They're only tier 5s, they're up on that back ridge line, and you can see the armor of the VK is not holding up. Bang, took some big hits there. Try and get one more off of this KVNS before I pull back into cover. The Sherman's moving across to flank. This is good news for me. I can pull into cover and still shoot. A couple extra shots there. Carrick's pushing in. It's 4-0. Game is won. They're focusing on Carrick, but they will swap back to me in a sec. I should probably be rushing into cover under their guns instead of stopping there to fire. It missed anyway. A crazy bounce off the front of the PZ4. They're not going anywhere, they're boxed in. Can I get another kill? I bounced the M4. unwisely going to come all the way over here to try and get a shot off. And he clips me, takes out the drive wheel. And it's time to pull back. I think I will let someone else claim this kill this time. Discretion is the better part of valor. A couple of medals there. Confederate Scout and Sniper. 2.2k for myself and 1.5 for Carrick. Only 12 damaging shots from 16 fired. I did a lot of shooting on the move there, so that explains that. And 40,000 credits. The second match is a very tier 8 game here on Copperfield. 3 tier 8s on either side. Myself and Carrick again in his tier 150 down the very bottom of the list. It's going to be a tough one. We're going to push around wide. Standard medium tank flanking tactics for this map. But unusually that Tiger 2 is going to follow along. So there is a potential for him to be a meat shield. So long as he doesn't try and camp at the back. Decent speed, the VK getting up to 51 k's per hour there on that rough ground. Sees me into this first spotting position. T43 up first. I fire without aiming too much. Goes through his front upper plate. And I don't know what that guy's doing. Is he AFK? No, he's back alive. They cautiously. T44. We trade shots. Mine somehow goes through his turret. I have no idea where that hit to go through. I would not have expected it to penetrate. Tiger 2 is moving forward. Thank you very much. He'll be a fantastic meat shield. Put one into the T43. Getting some very lucky shots here that aren't well aimed. Another one. T44 into the side. Push aggressively up. It's just these two guys, it looks like. T44 is in full retreat. Only concerned with which way he's going. I get one more through his side. And as he swings around here and crests, I'm going to get the killing blow. Pop, pop. The Reds have won the high ground, it looks like. We are going to have to flank wide and fast to get any kind of advantage. Come up behind them. Come with me, Flat Panzer. Let's see what speed we can get this thing up to now. Slight downhill slope. Come on, VK. Ooh, 59, almost to 60 k's an hour. Gonna spring up here behind Captain Bruce in his fury. Watching these replays, it just feels like a tank with an 80% crew. Everything seems to be sluggish. The aim time just doesn't look like it should be for a medium tank with a 2.3 second aim time. Captain Bruce is rushing in. Time to do some side scraping beside this building here. Is he going to try and circle fight me? Ooh, no, he's pulled up. His first shot bounces off my front. Second shot takes out my tracks. I'm now in a good position to side scrape. Jiggle about, throw his aim off. Bad luck to him. Carrick has moved up. There's only 2 tanks left now. Our 30 not happy with his team's performance, even though we're up 5-2. It's KV4 and the M6 left. Plenty of pressure being put on them. 2 tier 8 heavy tanks down there in our team. Oh, sorry, Carrick. It's just one of those games. M6, oh, I've been spotted. Looks like he's looking at me. And yep, there's that side ammo rack. Repair that straight away. Tiger 2 gets the M6. And this KV4 is definitely looking at me. Crest. Yep. Just waiting for me to pop out. Well, I'm not going to give him that satisfaction. RNG says no, shot through the side, that troll KV4 side armor. And I just missed the killing blow. Well played to the team. And that concludes this tank review, guys. I hope you were entertained. I think I struggled to make the VK31P exciting. It's really a tank that's just a stepping stone towards bigger and better vehicles. It's okay, it's got its strengths, but I definitely had no desire to keep it once it was finished. So thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.